let's talk about what you should look for as you go through your journey for evaluating a new billing system. The end goal, actually not only the end goal, but a key goal, I would say, is generating the invoice, right? The generating the invoice is definitely one of the things that you want to do for your customers. You want to produce a clear, concise, easy to read, and a well-designed invoice over here. Now, it may seem simple, but there's a lot of complexity that goes in behind the scenes to generate this piece of document. It all ends up being driven by the complexity of your business over here. Do you sell one-time products, or do you actually sell recurring products? Do you have variable and recurring charges in your business? Do you have professional services charges? There is a lot of information that goes into computing an invoice. And people underestimate the impact of mid-contract changes. You know, like if you change a contract middle of the period, is there an upsell? What is the impact to billing on that? Do you have to align charges to a certain billing day of the month, say 15th of the month? And if you have to align charges, do you have to do proration calculations over here? So as you can see, there is a lot of moving parts that go into generating the invoice. At the end of the day, the invoice is not just, hey, here, customer, this is what money you owe me. It is also a relationship touch point, right? You are sending an invoice to your customer, whether even if it is a $0 invoice, it is a proof of relationship. It's validation of the value that you are providing to your customers and so forth. And to make this process even more complex are the innovations in modern pricing models here. This is really making the billing process more complex as we move forward. There was a time traditionally in the 20th century where pricing models were centered around one-time purchases. You would buy a product, including a software or a license. It would be perpetual. Remember those days, Brian? And sure, you may have had some time and material that you would charge. Maybe there's a percentage commission fee and so forth. But in the last 10 to 20 years, we have seen a lot of experimentation and innovation. And why not? Because you want to price your product that works best for your business. At the end of the day, you want to maximize your revenue. You want to make it easy for your customers to adapt. And we saw 10 to 15 years ago the rise of subscriptions, SaaS-based contracts. You pay a fixed fee, all you can eat. Now we are seeing a lot of consumption-based pricing model. Take AWS. AWS will price their service based on what you use. It makes it easy for consumers to adapt. You pay a little, and then as you use more, you pay more. And a lot of customers are getting comfortable with that style of pricing. And then not to mention dynamic pricing. We have seen customers of Ordway use dynamic pricing models as well, where you have a different price during peak hours, you have a different price if it's not a peak hour, and so forth. Now, while you are evaluating and selecting a billing system to implement, you absolutely need to make sure that you can accommodate not only the traditional billing scenarios, but also subscription billing, maybe even usage. You may not have a need for usage billing today. Maybe your business is small, maybe you haven't grown into that, but almost always companies need flexibility of pricing. This has traditionally been very difficult to change pricing model because billing systems used to be rigid, point-like, and not flexible to adapt to different pricing models. So we certainly like to recommend that when you're evaluating a billing system, you future-proof your investment. You are putting in time and effort to select one, to implement one. Why not future-proof it? Because your business will change. You do not want to be re-implementing a billing system in the future again and again. Now, what we are seeing is not just these pricing models. We are seeing a combination of them, right? Like hybrid models. Hybrid models are the norm over here. You are not going to see one pricing or the other. You're going to actually see a combination of these pricing. This is a very simple illustration of how companies would offer multiple plans and package different types of pricing together based on what features you want to purchase. You may have different plans packaged over here. There may be a platform fee. a one-time fee, say 10, 20, $30, a usage fee. Maybe there's a percentage fee on professional services. And then not to mention all the other moving parts here, like free trials, paid trials, discounts, promotions, structure of the contract on how frequently you bill, payment terms, etc., and so forth. And this is definitely a huge area of complexity and a struggle for traditional billing systems. So in this slide, I've tried to articulate what the traditional world looks like. We have our sales on the left, we have accounting systems on the right, and then everything in between is complex, a little bit of a hodgepodgey manual patchwork framework to get stuff from one place to another here. Now, if your company is small, you can make it work with accounting software, but you're making people sit in front of a computer, figuring out how much to invoice, keying in the right information. It can work when you're small. Needless to say, this approach will not work as your business scales, right? It's going to take longer and longer to compute what goes into the accounting system. You are going to end up hiring a small army of FTEs who are crunching numbers on spreadsheets to put data in, not to mention the human error potential of those calculations before that is keyed in and so forth. And the other intangible side effect that often people overlook is the overload of support call volumes with emails to your accounts receivable organization and so forth. And all of this can be avoided with a good billing application, with a streamlined process that can help simplify a lot of this complexity in an easy to consume manner. So with the next slide, I am going to try and summarize some of the key features one should be looking for. Now, actually, there are a lot of moving parts in a billing system, but I have tried and consolidated just 6 key areas to look for. And I'm going to go one by one for all of these 6 areas over here. The goal here is automation, right? How can we automate high volume tasks, avoiding the need for full-time employees, and avoiding the needs for messy spreadsheets and so forth. And it starts with a calculation engine. You definitely need a calculation engine that can accurately compute how much to invoice, right? It has to pick up where you left off in the last billing cycle. What was the balance, any payments to apply, any credits to apply, and then calculate new charges to arrive at a new balance for the next billing cycle. Now, where does this data come from? All of this data comes from a contract database, right? The billing calculation engine is only as good as what you feed to the calculation engine, and that comes from your contracts database. And contracts database has all the elements of your sales orders, the payment terms, the discounts, the products purchased, the prices, and frequencies, and so forth. And these calculations can get complex over time. And they will get even more complex if you have usage in the picture. Usage can be simple consumption-based pricing, like we were discussing earlier, pay as you go. It can, but you absolutely need an engine that can automatically rate the usage, compute what needs to be done, any overage, any rollover, expiry of usage, etc. A lot of factors over here. And like I mentioned in one of the previous slides, not to underestimate the impact of mid-period change like upsell. You need a proration engine. You need to be able to compute what happens when a mid-period change happens and so forth. And every business will grow beyond a single jurisdiction, eventually to grow into multiple jurisdictions. You need sales tax calculations. The tax man is not going to leave you alone, right? You need multiple currency. You need multiple currency capability as you go through different beyond your currency at the moment, right? And then with taxes and multiple currencies come other complications of foreign exchange, gain, loss. You need a way to not only realize the gain or loss that happens due to currency fluctuations, but maybe even revalue your balance sheet, your deferred revenue, your accounts receivable month over month and things like that, right? And you may not be in multiple currencies today, but while you're selecting a billing application, again, emphasizing the need to future-proof your investment, you may want to consider these aspects while selecting a billing system as well. So now we have spoken about some of the complexities to look for and some of the parameters that we need to feed to a billing system. Our philosophy over here at Ordway is that if there is no change event happening to the contract, you shouldn't be worried about billing. You should let the billing continue. If the sales rep knows at the time of closing the deal or at the time of an upgrade on what the parameters of the contract are, if it can be fed seamlessly to a billing system, you should never have to worry about that. You only worry about the contract when a change event happens. So we really rely on where these change events are coming from. We rely on sales to send that data, from customer success, self-service. It's important to consider the synchronization of data that is happening through a CRM or an e-commerce application. So sales may be a sales-led organization using a CRM. It could be a self-service tool that you are asking your customers, or you may have made it easy for your customers to come online, sign up for your service, maybe even change plans, or customer success doing renewals or handling exceptions like giving a credit and so forth. These are the parameters that are fed to a billing system, and hopefully it will really reduce the number of inquiries into your organization. And in the spirit of reducing inquiries to your accounts receivable organization, you also want to maximize the customer experience, right? Now, there are many aspects of how your customer interacts with you. The billing system is behind the scenes. At the end of the day, they're interacting with you. So how do you create the invoice and how do you present the invoice? What level of detail on the invoice is the right amount of detail for your customer? Do you need explanations for every line item on the invoice? Do you need to show the math behind the calculations? Do you need to provide some form of a reference rating table on how you came up with those calculations? These are important questions to ask. And if you do, then you need to make sure that you are able to provide that level of transparency. And then a billing portal is powerful. It empowers your customer to have access to history of invoice, transaction balances, updating payment information, and so forth. Again, in the spirit of reducing complex billing inquiries, disputes, etc., and so forth. You want to get paid faster. You want to make it easier for your customers to pay you faster, giving multiple payment options, and so forth. And then communication. Communication is key for any relationship, right? So you want to make sure that you are having crisp, concise communication for sending out a new invoice, reminding about payments, if a payment has failed, a past due notice, and absolutely good practice to close the loop if the payment has also been received over here. And if you are considering a billing system in 2022, obviously we would love for you to consider Ordway. Last slide I have over here is basically just summarizing this, right? Like what I just described it's what is being summarized here. The entire contract to revenue lifecycle is something that Ordway manages, from packaging the contract for products, for lists, for invoice, sales tax calculations, collections, the whole 9 yards, and hopefully help remove all the complexities in your business.